Greetings everybody, welcome once more to the Dracovin Empire. Are you ready to dive back in time? Yes, today we are exploring history once more, and the history of CCGs that have been released to us. We've reached 1995, and today we're going to be exploring a game? Banemaster The Adventure. I could not recommend this one, unless you are looking at it for historical or testing it out for fun. It's not, we'll talk about it. This is going to be an interesting one to dive into, and one that led me down a number of paths that I don't normally go down in exploring these old CCGs. So if you're ready to join me, your host here, Banemaster The Adventure, grab my hand. A little bit of a tip might be nice before I enter the time portal to take us back to 95 and learn about Banemaster. That would be, of course, subscribing over the YouTube side of things and letting me know if you ever played Banemaster in the comments, or would you play this game? Let me know. Alright, time portal's open. You can hear it whooshing. So you can hear it over there. Let's get going. Into the past we go. Back to 95! 1995, and Banemaster The Adventure has been unleashed upon the world. What is Banemaster? That's a great question to start out with. Well, Banemaster is a two-player, kind of can be more player games. Really, the basic rules are for two players. There is an advanced and a tournament rules. We'll talk about it. But it is an out-of-print card game that was done by Tiger Limited and Chessex. Yes, Chessex, the dice people. Though, of course, this was the early version of Chessex before they basically joined with Armory to become Chessex Manufacturing, big dice company, which exists to today. And honestly, also speaking, you can still buy Banemaster stuff from their website. I'll link that in the description. But, yeah, there you go. There's some basics about it. Basically, the goal was you were telling a story with the cards, and there was one character that was being the Banemaster, the villain of the game, and the other being the adventurer, going against them. Very role-playing centric in a lot of ways. So, this is one of their hacks, and we know that the game itself was released on August of 1995. With a set of 305 cards-ish? We will talk about what that ish means. But, yeah, the set was supposed to be 235, but, like, there have been documented 305. It is a mess to talk about. Effectively, this was the only product that was put out for Banemaster. And, yeah, it was the end of it after that. We'll talk about who developed it and some important parts about it here, but this is one of those things is it was a one-and-done product. And that was it. Also reviewed that. So if you have to talk about developers, I'm using an image here that's provided by one of the people that worked in Chessex, Mark Finn. Mark Finn is a writer. He's now in the Gentleman Nerds podcast. He has a website that he talks about his time in Chessex. The Northern Texas Pocket Bunker, which I will link his article below, which we'll talk about. But he talks about his time working at Chessex and helping develop Banemaster. This was an image he provided of our main creator here, Alexander Sandy Duncan, a person who may be Scottish. They were in Scotland and living there at the time of the game. And of course then Chessex at the time, which might not be the current image for Chessex. This might be Chessex Manufacturing, but basically Chessex Company worked together developing. The main artist on this series was Jamie Grant. She was an artist that was relatively new to the circuit at the time. Her art is found on all the cards. She was best known at this point in time for doing some art concepts, video games, and working on things like Lemmings. So, a relatively new stayer to the art world, combined with an relatively new stellar on the world of gaming and card games, combined with Chessex getting into card games at this point in time, is the kind of conglomeration of everything we got. So let's talk about the story. And I'm not going to go into full details. I would definitely recommend checking out Mark Finn's article, which I'll be linking below to read through all of it. I'll give a basic summary about what was going on with Banemaster and kind of understanding this. Banemaster was basically picking up by Chessex at the time. And it was Mark who came in to basically check over things in the back end of it with the head of the company, basically getting from Duncan the decks. So, yes, the basic rules and the 2 decks. We are introduced to the game as, a 2-player game at this point in time, exploring dungeons, avoiding traps, fighting monsters, winning treasures, with one person running the dungeon, the other person being the thing. The rules were simple. The art, which we'll see, is not terrible, but it is relatively simple art, especially for something that is supposed to be a little bit more heavy strategy. The game itself, relatively simple. What we learned from Mark is, by the time he came in there, they already had printings of stuff and rules printed, and they were having him look at stuff, and it was kind of like, I have some suggestions. They would be like redoing the art, no offense to Jamie, but it is not like the kind of art you want in this era, because you're comparing this to Magic. Think about that. Magic's already out. We know what Magic the Gathering art looks like. If we're comparing it to that, it doesn't hold candle. Especially if you're going for something for an age, like 10 or up area. If you're looking for younger people, maybe. But there are some things depicted here that are a little bit more on the gruesome side, meaning they're really not doing that. So, yeah. Unfortunately, the product was kind of almost doomed from the start, as they had, by the time they were looking at the problems with art and rules and stuff like that, they already had everything printed. They couldn't go into the boxes and change out the rules. It'd be way too much of a problem. They got the product out there, sold it the best they can. It reviewed terribly. We do know from some of the rules reviews at the time, Arcane Magazine gave it a 3 out of 10. So, yeah. And the person who reviewed it commented it was an introduction to RPGs written by someone who's never played one. And the thing is, it looks like a cash grab by Chessex. And it really wasn't. This was someone's first game, and it needed basically some more time in the oven. And then Chessex, who had been working on a different CCG product of their own, rather than backing this one, bringing in from Duncan, killed that one. It's a fascinating story. I would say read through it all, but yeah. Okay. So that's the story about it. Let's talk about the products. Because there are 2, and you can still get them from the Chessex site. These are, of course, the Adventure Starter Deck Box and the Adventure Booster Box. The Booster Box goes for $105. The Starter Box goes for $90. The Starter Box has 10 starter decks per box, 70 cards per deck. You're not buying an individual starter box. You're buying the entire box of starters. And, of course, the Booster Pack, which we showed the Booster Pack earlier on its own, is 60 booster packs per box, 14 cards per booster. So it was a good amount of cards you get. So it was that booster box there for $105. It's 60 boosters, each with 14 cards. The starter box, you're buying 10 starter decks with 70 cards in each of them. You're then split between your Banemaster and, of course, your Adventurer decks. But these were the only products ever sold. So, yeah. Let's take a look at the cards. Yeah, here's a good look at some of the cards here, with the various different types. Traps, spells, and the like, which were basically used. Again, breaking it down to the basic rules of the game as we had to talk about them here. Again, as I'll say, I wasn't able to get the full rules together, so that is something that, we're going to have to be like, oh, we don't have those full rules. But this idea that, things like the Marauder, the Trap, are on the side of the Banemaster, where the spells can be either side and Flesh Disintegrate there. Yeah, that's not an adult thing. The Trap. These feel very younger-oriented artwork, but for very adult themes. But, like, weapons would be used by the adventurers to face against the Marauders and Traps, and it was a very number-based system, as we'll talk about here. Very cut and dry. There wasn't a lot of strategy. It was compare 2 numbers, see who wins kind of things a lot of times, plain stuff. It was a very simple system, unfortunately. And because Magic had already been out for 3 years at this point in time, complexities were very there. Subtleties were very there. We did not have that subtlety or complexity in here. It was just a little too simple. And it did kill some stuff and cause some problems. Chessex. Here's another example of how the style of the cards look. A Mad Vampire Sheep. I like its name. Not gonna lie. It's so funny and great. And yes, this is the kind of thing that, like, if they'd gone for comical, you know, more on the side of it, maybe it would have had a little bit of a cult following a little bit. But it was, you know, there was a lot more adult things in comparison to it. It wasn't all childish or comical levels of violence or gore. It was just one thing or the other. And that did not help for it. Now, when we were talking about the cards, we were talking about that there was 234 cards in the original list, but 305 have been documented. Why is that? Well, first off, pictures over there. Those are two cards, Marauder and Marauder. One has the actual Marauder picture. The other doesn't. The other picture there is of the Scorpion Orc, put on the Marauder card. So there were some monsters that had 3 to 4 variations on their stats. So a couple weapons that are different like that. Misprints. Wrong names on wrong cards. So the printing was a mess. And also, look down there at the rarity. That is artificial. The cards were originally printed no common, uncommon, rare, or, as this little, like, snippet here says, really rare. Basically, it was on the printings, there were spaces, so that other cards would show up in those spaces to fill in the gaps in some of these printings. And that was what created the rarities. Effectively, the rarities were artificial. There wasn't a deliberate spread about it. It was made artificially and reworked around and basically redone a little bit. They did their best to accommodate things that weren't built into the system. With a 4 rarity tier and a lot of misprints and all these weird problems, it's surprising that, you know, it went this far. And that's kind of where we have to get into the gameplay and rules, because I was unable to find a full copy of the rules. It turns out when your game isn't very popular, even when it came out, people don't really find it popular nowadays. You would have to purchase it. I don't have the extra funds to purchase a box of the cards right now. I probably could have gone on, I wasn't planning on going on eBay and buying a rules book too. So maybe that's another thing for another day for actually getting deep into the rules. But here's some basic rules on some of the cards, which I did see someone comment that this was a great way of telling you how to play the game. The basic rules and stuff like that. Oof. Unfortunately there. So the order play, the list shows the order which cards are played each turn: power, treasure, weapon, spell, potion, optional for the basic game. But then you get the advanced game over there, where you have Banemaster The Adventure, where you can see Banemaster plays place card, set scene, play feature, play event, which are both optional. The adventurer finds treasures, weapons, etc., claims treasure with power. A Banemaster attacks with Marauder. Adventurers place weapons to support claim. Banemaster plays traps to support Marauder. Adventurer plays spells, potions. Adventurer 1 treasure goes to a trove pile. All the cards are discarded. Adventurer draws three hand up to 8. Banemaster adds successful cards to the EM reverse optional. All the cards are discarded. End turn. Basically, you start a turn by drawing up to 8 cards in a lot of ways. So that's one of the things you have to kind of think about how you are playing this game. And then you play those cards, you add up numbers, you repeat until there is a winning thing. And again, there are 3 levels of rules here that did exist. The basics, the advanced, and the tournament play rules that we know did get published eventually. I'm sure the little publication book I showed a picture of earlier might have all of them. But this is kind of getting into the retrospect of the game. It is simple. It is a Banemaster using monsters and traps, while the other collects treasures and scores points. And there is a round where the Banemaster role will rotate to the next player and the game continues. So I guess there's a number of rounds where everybody takes turns using the various decks and drawing cards until you get to a certain number of points, etc., etc. Basic rules for it. There you go. That's what I can kind of tell you about how to play the game. It was made to play a story, too. I think that's the thing is, It is meant for you to tell a story while you are using these cards, almost to run a role-playing game, run D&D in a lot of ways. It was role-playing elements being brought to the gameplay. You have to think of there are other card games and other board games nowadays that do tell stories, but usually they're built in a lot more mechanically in a lot more interesting ways. There are games that are meant to tell those stories with their cards. You don't necessarily need to, but you can. And that's, I think, the other thing. There are games nowadays where a story can be told. Banemaster, it was an important part of that. I think that's where it comes in as a little bit of a problem in here, too. It's this compounding of problems that happen here. That there are these role-playing elements being brought in, but they're being brought in as a major part of it, and not quite very well. It was an interesting experiment, of course, and maybe needed some more time to be developed. It seems as though when Chessex basically bought it out and started processing this thing, by the time they were taking a look and saying, like, maybe we have a problem here, maybe some things need to improve, it was already too late. And that was kind of the problem. And it ruined other things for them. It caused an entire mess. And that's why the game didn't go anywhere. I'm not saying maybe it didn't have the aspects and some cores of an interesting game to begin with. Not to mess on Duncan, who created it, Alexander Duncan. Same. Perhaps there was something that was going on there. But things like the role-playing elements not being, and the storytelling elements not being as well integrated, some of the rules needing to be refined a little bit more to make them have things like combos, and it's not just a numbers game. And also, honestly speaking, the art. You could have kept with, your original artist, Jamie Gray. Again, don't confuse it with another one of Jamie Gray, a man. This woman, Jamie Gray. She could have been kept as an artist, but think about the sheep. Go in one direction. Either be, more realistic and gory, or kid-friendly, or be comical. One, not all of them. It's childish comic amounts of violence and gore, and there are some cards that stick out as great, brilliant cards. As it was kind of said by our good friend Mark Friend here in his article, the art's not great, but it's still brilliant anyway. And so, more time, finding out certain things. There could have been so much to it. And then, also, the quality of the cards. So, again, hey, 305 cards documented when it should be 234 cards. And that's just documented. All the stuff they're probably selling now might have more new, rare, only cards. They're not going to be worth anything. The game's not popular, but it's there. It was a lot of little issues that added together, some bigger issues, and it made it that it just didn't succeed. And Banemaster failed, fell apart, and it went away. It was the core of something interesting, a lot of really interesting things, but it just did not survive. That'll be it today. I hope you enjoyed me exploring Banemaster The Adventure. Again, apologies for not having the full rules. It was one of those things as I try to find them online. I don't have a huge amount of budget for a lot of these games, so I couldn't purchase them. So again, if anybody out there has a copy of the rules they can upload or something, just let me know. Just let me know in the comments, we can kind of maybe share that. And link things in the video. Just so that the rules are out there, if you're interested in looking into it. But again, it's one of those games that I definitely could not really recommend trying out Banemaster unless you're out to try a lot of different games, and it's for, review, historical, curiosity. It's not something I definitely would recommend collecting. Please check out the rest of my stuff, whether it's over on YouTube or Twitch. Twitch is where I record all my tabletop-related stuff. I also do some gaming, hang out with friends, all that kind of stuff. But YouTube is where I upload all my tabletop-related stuff at the current moment. Maybe I'll do it for our channel eventually. That you don't have to join me live, you can at least go to the YouTube side. If you're on the YouTube side, hey, said earlier, remember to do that subscribe description and let me know what you're thinking about Banemaster in the comments. Do that. Check out my social medias, link below. And, yeah, we'll explore another CCG in the past again. Next one, if you want a little bit of hint ahead of time, which I think I want to start doing for these videos. Next one, post Banemaster. We're going to be talking about Battle Lords from 95. So we're continuing our 1995 exploration next time we go back in time in the CCG. But until then, I bid all of you out there adieu and wonderful farewell.